G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Jug Show. I'm finally back, I'm finally good to do talking again, because let me tell you guys, bronchitis, it's not fun. Spent 2 weeks unable to talk, and another 2 weeks where if I talk too much, then I'm just having another coughing fit. It was unbelievable, it was very painful, but now I'm back, and now I can talk again, which is good timing, because now we can talk about the conclusion of the Invincible Woman Arc in Marvel's Fantastic Four by Ryan North and Humberto Ramos. So, let's just get right into it then, shall we? So this was definitely a fascinating issue, but it did feel a bit rushed. To put it plainly, I think that this was originally going to be 2 separate issues, because you can really see a split moment here when it goes between the end of the battle with the Invincible Woman and into the healing of Galactus. I feel that we could have actually split that into the 2 different issues, really expand on the actual battle itself, given the fact that that fight actually, like beforehand, before the actual arrival of the Invincible Woman, there were a lot more powerful characters that we could have seen the Invincible Woman take down in various different ways. And as well, we could have actually expanded on the emotional states and the actual happenings of the healing of Galactus, as well as recovering at the Fantastic Farmhouse. So I really do believe that this was actually going to be a 2-issue part, but they had to compress it into a single issue, so we didn't get as much in-depth description that we probably would have liked. So that's an unfortunate part, but even with the fact that it definitely was compressed into the single issue, it did have a lot of good moments that is actually building my curiosity on if Ryan is going to continue the Invincible Woman, as well as what's going to happen with the Future Foundation, as well as the continuation of his Fantastic Four. Because I'm quite sure a lot of different writers could even take this specific moments, this specific book, and build plenty of stories of it, given the relationship between the Fantastic Four and S.H.I.E.L.D., Fantastic Four and Maria Hill. There's a lot of things that could be done there for the Future Foundation. There's a lot of things that can be done with Sue, like our Sue, with a bit of development she just got, like we saw on the final page, but we'll go into that later. It's definitely an issue that, given the fact we still don't know how many more comics that Ryan has in him when it comes to the Fantastic Four, but this is an issue that, because it's still so early in this particular run, there's still could be a lot of more comics that we can go to, that this actually does feel like it's going to be the beginning of something bigger. I don't think we're going to be seeing results of that until after Fantastic Four. I think it's number 15 at this point. Yes, 15, and that's going to be the 65th anniversary, and that one's already going to be an oversized one, and we're going to have big things happening in that. Up until that point, we're going back to the small single issue rather than the arcs. Probably because of the fact he got all these stories in his head, and he can't do an arc until he get past the 65th issue, because that's going to be one big issue. It's not going to just be I don't know what's going through his head, but that's pretty much what I've got thinking anyway. Especially with the number 11 actually being an epilogue of the Invincible Woman arc, and it's going to be talking about what comes next, probably setting a few things up, reintroducing the Future Foundation, and so the fact is, I think this is just the start of a whole other story, and I'm very excited to see what that story is going to be. So we're going to go through the comic, and I'm going to show you the points that I believe is going to lead to more and bigger things, and as well as the things that I think were good, and the things I thought were pretty, I'm not going to say bad, because I don't think the comic was bad. Like I said, I feel like it was compressed. It was a bit rushed. So we're going to go through it, and let's go and let's see what we can make of it. Especially because this was Ryan's longest arc that he's had in the Fantastic Four, and the fact he hasn't done many arcs in the actual comics, taking that into consideration, I thought this was actually pretty good. I thought it was definitely an interesting conclusion, as well as the fact that the ending really does set up the idea of an expansion of Susan Storm. So, getting into it. So the start, it definitely isn't focused on the Fantastic Four. This was like a bit of a. I feel like this moment was a bit of a Ryan North whimsy that he just decided to be a little bit creative. I have no idea why he decided to bring in Bullseye, but the fact of what he was trying to do, it does make sense. But there's a lot of other things he could do, so I feel like he just did this for the fun of it. Because I feel like that's the type of writer he is. He does things that he thinks people will enjoy because he finds fun. He finds it silly, and he's trying to use the entire Marvel Universe to actually bring that in. So the idea of Scarlet Witch teaming up with the likes of Bullseye to create a powerful spell and make it as accurate as possible is actually a very fun concept. There are a lot of things that I saw people actually having a problem with this particular moment, given what's happening in Steve Orlando's Scarlet Witch runs along with its each individual titles. But the thing is, I actually have my own problems with Orlando's Scarlet Witch run that I feel like could actually learn a few things from this particular moment, like the concept of anything is possible. Granted, the use of the word impossible probably is what's problematic, but the fact that she is actually realizing there might be a bit of a limit and realize that they can't leave anything to chance, so they have to make it as possible as they can. I feel like that's actually a bit more interesting, the way that she has to put 1 and 2 together so she can get 3. So I feel like this is actually something that Orlando could actually probably learn from, because in his books, it really feels like it's not even really power scaling. It really just feels like excuses to win. So I really feel like that this is definitely a lot more interesting version of Wanda. The idea of her collecting and meeting people to do things that she actually can't, to make sure that the chances and probability actually leans more into her favor because of the skills of other people. I actually thought that was pretty interesting. So, continuing on. So we're just diving right into the battle. We left off the issue 9 where the kids are in the battle, they're with all these other characters, and here's where I really do feel that this was actually this battle was compressed. For starters, we're now learning that Valeria is actually using the Doom bots that she had when she collected in the Will of Doom comics that we saw at the ending. I saw a lot of people coming up with ideas, and the fact is, those ideas still aren't off the table. That was a whole army of Doom bots, as well as probably the ability to make more. So the fact is, this might not just be the ending, but it does lead to more of a... Like, I remember one of my videos, I was making the argument that while the kids can definitely start partaking in being superheroes, that they are still young, they're still very inexperienced, and you can actually see that with Valeria, because Valeria, while being a very calculating person in the field, she can be a bit zealous, she can be... Is arrogant the right word? I don't think arrogant is the right word, but she's still young. She can be a bit hot-headed like her uncle. So that's actually something I think is a bit interesting. It's a very interesting character flaw that I would like to see more of. But we're definitely seeing the fact that she might not be as capable as she thinks she is. The fact that she actually made these what she calls Valbots, I think she actually needs to do a little bit more adjustments to call them Valbots, but they go straight after the Invincible Woman. And in typical Sue-like fashion, she just actually annihilates them. This is something that really does separate the Invincible Woman from Sue. The fact that Sue isn't willing to really hurt people, it means that she takes different approaches. So she probably has, on multiple occasions, straight up just crushed Doombots, but it's not really a go-to. I mean, I remember comics where she straight up slices through it. We've all seen the comic cover where in the War of the Realms all those years ago, where she has not just a force field, but the spikes So it was penetrating the feet of frost giants. So while Susan does have violent tendencies, the Invincible Woman is incredibly sadistic. So the idea of hurting anything or just being plain destructive, showing power, that's not stopping her. She's gonna do all those things. So she crushes the Valbot, showing more power by destroying the alien ship. Not just destroying the alien ship, but compressing it so fast that the friction of it all, it actually superheats. So it instantly becomes a ball of plasma. That's actually incredibly powerful, because the fact is, we've actually known that these are the aliens from the start of the Invincible Woman arc. These guys are actually extremophiles. They require extreme measure. They require like extreme temperatures in order to survive. That's how they survive. And the fact that you'd actually make the argument that their ships would be incredibly powerful, incredibly dense, incredibly strong, right? That they could actually handle these kind of temperatures, these kind of conditions of a planet. And she crushes it insanely easily. And the fact that it actually heats up when these things are probably designed to deal with this kind of heat, it's actually incredibly intimidating, especially to these creatures. I will admit that I wondered who they were for a second. Then I just did realize that they are the aliens from the first issue of this arc, just without their armor. But this definitely is moments of intimidation. And the difference between this intimidation and Sue, when she intimidates, she's more calm about it. The one thing that's really popped into my mind is this page here from Fantastic Four, written by Dwayne McDuffie years ago, and this was a really cool moment of intimidation. Like, this is actually how you really scare the pants off individuals, where she was making her chest invisible, gone very surgical, showing him his heart and how she could actually make it stop, making him pass out. That's usually Susan's form of intimidation. Real threats that she can back up. And the thing is, that actually would be very intimidating for this type of person, because the fact is, if she's saying that she's currently holding knives, invisible knives over your head, you don't really know if she's bluffing or not, because she's also got a very calm demeanor when she's doing that. She probably beats Ben more at poker, God knows how many times, because she's got a very calm demeanor. She's very cold and collected when she's making those type of threats, like you should be, because that really sells that the fact she can do something very dark to you. So that's usually Susan's form of intimidation, but this form of intimidation is grand showings of power. This is the grand showings of destruction. And it definitely does work on these guys, because they're just already out of here. I don't think we actually ever got an actual name for these creatures, but we'll just call them the extremophiles. So now that that's done, they're gone, they're freaked out, they're buzzing out of here, because now we don't just have one Susan Storm, but two, especially one that's incredibly sadistic. They're gone. I'd be gone. I think we'd all be gone. It'd be bloody terrifying, especially with the Invincible Woman. Like I said, there's a Sue Storm that's a sadist. She likes hurting things. She likes proving her strength. That's not somebody you want to take on. It's very, very scary. And then we do probably what is the dumbest thing in this comic. Not on Ryan's thing, the character's thing. Because you have to ask yourself, if you're taking on a Susan Storm who is okay with sadistic attacks, who likes proving herself, likes experimenting with pain and torture, why would you throw Wolverine and Deadpool? The only reason, I think, is because of the fact they can heal, the fact she would actually enjoy herself figuring new ways to actually kill them and maim them and destroy them. And let me tell you something, as somebody that doesn't really like Wolverine, I found this page incredibly cathartic. I won't lie, I enjoyed it. Okay, it was really cool, it was really grim, it's definitely also leans into Humberto Ramos's, how I believe that Humberto Ramos is definitely skilled when it comes to body horror and real gore, because I think of a lot of things that he's done. He doesn't get that much into real gore, but he does do a bit of body, not horror, more twist. Because of his fluid art style, you do get some real creepy, gory type of looking stuff when he goes like this. And the thing is, it's very. I don't want to say pleasant because that's going to make me sound like a freak. Like, I don't even enjoy horror movies, but like, this is the point between interesting artwork and absolute horror. He's got that real pinpoint right there. So it's very cool to look at. Okay, that maybe does make me sound a little bit like a creep. I'm not a sadist. I'm not even a surgeon. I don't like gore, okay? I don't even like horror movies. I'm just putting that out there. Anyway, continuing on. So they pull another move by using Black Cat's luck abilities. By doing that, they try and throw her off with a combination of Iron Man, Black Cat, and Valeria. Now, I like the combination of using Iron Man and Black Cat because they were used together a lot during Jed MacKay's Black Cat run. Like, he kind of developed a bit of a fun relationship between the two. I really love Jed MacKay's Black Cat. I keep almost saying Black Panther, but it's Black Cat. The smaller version. Has there actually been a Black Cat, Black Panther team up? Because that would the idea is sounding funny, but so, and it actually does something that I kind of like, the idea of Iron Man actually interacting with Valeria the way he does here. Like, it's just small, but it's a lot of fun because the kids don't interact with other heroes too much, which I find very, I just kind of find a bit disappointing. Like, this is one of the reasons I think they deserve their own story, just so they can develop their relationships with all these other individual heroes. It would be very fun. It would be it would grow the characters. And as we continue on, it shows that even with the power of luck and this generator expanding it, Susan can even overcome that because she can really destroy electronics with the electromagnetic spectrum. Because the fact is, you don't want to turn your microwave on with the door still open. That kills things. That kills people. And the fact is, I don't know. Okay, here's the thing. I don't know if they've actually fixed this issue, but you don't also want to put magnets next to technology. Okay, I remember I did that once when I was a kid. I had these really cool magnet ornaments. I accidentally left them on the TV, and the TV was discolored for months. The fact that no one knew that I was the one that put them on there was the only thing that kept me out of trouble. So I really hope my parents aren't listening to this, because then they'll know that it was my fault. But I don't know if that's still a problem anymore. I think it still is. And I think you just want to keep your magnets away from your technology. So, continuing on, then we really come to the reason why they're actually doing all this. And also another reason why I feel like there was supposed to be more to it. Because while, yes, the idea of bad luck, as well as the... what's the word? Like, the bringing in Wolverine and Deadpool so she actually can almost like practice being sadistic, as well as maiming these two people, seeing how she would destroy someone with a healing factor. It was all distractions, and when it comes to distractions, normally it's like look over here so I can hit you while you're looking away, but that's not why they were creating these distractions. They were trying to overwhelm her senses, essentially. Trying to overwhelm her, like, just her mind. Saying, because if you've ever actually been overwhelmed by, like, an amount of work that you got on, and you kind of like, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do that? Okay, I need to do this, need to do this, need to do this. And you don't know which one to start with. You get very turned around, and that's what they're doing here. And it's very clever. And I feel like this would probably work more for Johnny than it would for Susan, because honestly, Johnny seems to have a little ADHD, and it would definitely work on me, because just the other day, from when I was recording this, I was telling myself I really could use some new shoes. So I'm walking so I can go to shops, get some new shoes. And I figure, it's kind of late in the day. Do I really want to go? You know what? I should go. But no, I kind of don't want to. Maybe I get some donuts. I could get some donuts. No, I don't want some donuts. I'll just head to the shops. I'm going to get some pasta and some biscuits for dinner. But maybe I should get some donuts. Maybe I should have gone and get those shoes. And then, because, the fact that that happens over donuts, shoes, and pasta, to me, throwing these things at her definitely would help with overwhelming the senses. But why I feel like that it was definitely compressed is because the fact we have Storm, Scarlet Witch, and Captain Marvel here, three very massive powerhouses, especially when it comes to Storm, because we're going to get into that in another video because that was a big one this week. The fact that they had them there and they weren't included, I feel was because even if Silly the Invincible Woman can beat them, which quite frankly I think it could be possible, the fact that they would contribute massively, especially putting her on the defensive, would be an obvious thing. It feels like Ryan bought in Storm because it felt like he had a plan for every person he bought in, but because he had to compress it into the single issue, he couldn't use it, which is unfortunate. So the fact they're trying to overwhelm her and how much she needs to do, it really does feel like, so that's how they actually get the better of her. They throw her off. They get her to look the other way, and also kind of annoy her, even overwhelming her by Johnny actually being willing to burn her. This is a big deal, the fact that Johnny actually, he didn't singe her, he didn't roast the clothing, he actually burnt her properly. And that's probably that's a really big thing to think about, especially from Ryan, who actually did write in the very earliest stage of his comic that Johnny does his absolute best to avoid burning people. He can't handle the actual burning people. So the fact he's willing to do this is I don't know if this is development on Johnny. I don't think this is a bit of I see he took things a bit too far. It's just something to think about. So we get to this stage. She is overwhelmed. And when people are overwhelmed and they can't bring it in, they can't just figure out how to move forward, they lash out. I've done this myself. I'm quite sure a lot of listeners have done something like this themselves as well. This is very dangerous work. This is something that, you want to yell or something. You want to throw something. You need something, because if you don't do something that actually brings your mind back to focus and really recenter yourself, you're going to do something like this. She ends up emitting and controlling the microwave energy of almost of the planet, pushing it out, bringing it back in, honing it, focusing it, just creating this massive microwave bomb, essentially, that's taking so much focus from her, taking so much power and energy that she's involuntarily making herself invisible, giving us another good example of body horror from Susan Storm. Because the fact is, with the fact that Susan's been doing a lot of the artists have been doing a lot of the muscle and levels and different vascular level systems of the invisibility when it comes to Susan. And this one is a very good example, because if I'm being honest, skeletons aren't scary. They're weird and creepy, yes, if they're walking around, but skeletons aren't the scary thing. I don't know why we do Halloween with them. They're the funny thing, okay? You can't expect skeletons to be scary and then we all sing Spooky Scary Skeleton, because that's just a fucking pop. I love that song. But you got the muscular systems right here, which is actually very terrifying. Hell, just the nervous system is terrifying. If you break down the human body and you do all the systems, the skeleton isn't really that creepy. It's just morbid. But then you give the nervous system, that shit's scary if it's just standing up on its own. I don't know what it's like, the creepy webby thing. It's kind of like thousands of spiders on each other. And then you got the muscle system, and that's just that just sends warning signals in your brain saying something's wrong. This is not right. Why are we doing it like this? So there we continue. So yeah, it's incredibly scary. It's actually like the cornerstone of gore if you're thinking about it, because the fact is, you got a gory scene. You're not freaking out over bones. You're freaking out at all this red blood, guts, and muscles all teared out all over the place. So yeah, the muscle system is much more terrifying than the skeletal system. I don't know why I had to go into that. No, I do have to know why. Okay, I had to get that out there. Okay, moving on. So, like I said, this is part of the plan. They're kind of trying to piss her off in a way. They're trying to make her make a mistake. Because this is actually a good thing that you got to do. In fact, if you do boxing, you know that jabbing, if you're jabbing, that's not an attack, that's a tool. When you're jabbing someone, you're trying to get a good understanding of the distance between you and your opponent. You're trying to also kind of make them make a mistake. You jab at the hands, you jab at the head, you jab at the body. You're trying to get them look over here, look over here, look over here. And so when they try and maybe make an attack at you, you can counter and punch them around. That's how it works. This is what they did. They got her to use this one big move that they actually reflected back on her by a piece of technology they had prepared, probably talking about it over the fact when they were being transported back, and that Maria Hill, as well as probably Valeria and Franklin, and the Future Foundation, is actually already has set up. So this is another it felt very quick, this taking her down. Like I said, I feel like this probably was going to be at the end. We were going to have a little bit more, but he decided to put in what Ryan probably wanted. Like, he wanted to show the sadism against Wolverine, and he wanted to show a bit of intelligence, especially because he likes Black Cat, he likes Iron Man, and he probably wanted to give a little bit more with Val. So yeah, he probably put the ones in that he wanted to do. And that's all he could do. He probably wanted a bit more, but he probably couldn't put it in. So she's distracted, she's letting loose, and so they contain her, and they reflect all that power back on her. And even though she has actually admitted she uses force fields, she keeps force fields on her at all times to protect from impacts, the energy, the mass amount of energy, and the nature of the energy actually still manages to penetrate it. Not as much, though. That's the whole thing. Like, it protects her, but it wipes her out. It actually damages her. It damages her neurological systems, so she's now in a coma, and no one knows if she is going to wake up. And then she's put into S.H.I.E.L.D. custody to see if they can wake her up. Not can wake her up, in case she does wake up. But they want to try and restore her brain function. They want to unlobotomize her, essentially. I was about to make a point. Now I can't remember what that point was going to be. That's right. The reason why I like this ending is because it's a classic, actually. The idea of containing someone that would be very difficult to contain, that could be very dangerous to contain. One of the first examples coming to mind is the idea went back in the Krakoan era. The very first part of it, they put Sabretooth down in the pit, and he ends up taking over the pit. He actually takes over it psychologically and turns it into almost a literal hell that he is the devil. Now, I don't think we're going to go that direction here, because we're not going to... But there's also like the idea of, like, say, in Superman, trying to imprison General Zod with, like, just pure manacles and bindings, not putting him in the Phantom Zone or anything. But it's one of those situations where you put a character in a prison system knowing they're going to be able to break out, that we don't have what it takes to keep them contained. So I think that's going to happen. So I think also, the thing is, I don't think they know exactly why she's in this much pain, why she lobotomized herself. They know she lobotomized herself. They probably don't understand the level of what she's talking about when she says, I killed everyone. So I feel like the idea of healing her is going to fall flat. Because I feel like if they do bring back her senses of empathy and shame, she's going to be overwhelmed again, and that's going to be a lot. And I don't think a person can actually come back from that, because that is a lot to handle. I don't think they can forgive themselves. I don't think that she'd want that kind of pain, because it's a lot. In fact, we've seen a lot of times where, like, characters will remove moments of their memory. They will resort to all kinds... Like, the fact is, when it comes to Wolverine, he regrets a lot of his actions, and he actually... he tries to get drunk. He drinks. He sleeps around. We see all these vices that some other characters have gone from the small things in comparison to, handle just making it from day to day. Whereas Susan has killed everyone in the world. She doesn't have a world to go back to. The only person I can imagine actually having some sense of understanding would probably be Jean Grey after she has actually killed an entire planet. But my problem with that is that even to this day, I've read a lot of the comics when it comes to her trying to handle that. I really don't think it was actually handled very well. And a big difference as well is the fact she killed another planet, and she goes back to the X-Men, and they were always there to kind of cheer her up. Whereas Susan, with the Invincible Woman, she kills her own planet. Her family's gone. She is very alone in the universe. And even if she found like some sense of home here on this world, how does that make any sense? They already have a Susan Storm, so she can't be like, even with clones. Clones find their own identity, but this is still Susan. How would that work? I don't think it could actually work out for her. In fact, I think it could even create a scenario where even if she is getting better, it could be the cornerstone of a relapse. So yeah, that's that part. And here in this part, so that's what I'm thinking when it comes to. What I'm glad about is the fact she's not dead, she's not healed, and she can still come back as another villain. Because I feel like the Invincible Woman is too good of a villain for the Fantastic Four, as well as Marvel in general, to just simply throw away. For starters, the Fantastic Four, they don't really have someone so based whose like goals and convictions are so based in just the idea of sadism. They just hurt people because they like it. They find it fun. They want to push how far they can go for it. Like that's not like a lot of there are a few characters like that in Marvel comics, but they're very in between. Like one that comes to mind is Carnage. This is essentially Carnage in the form of the Invincible Woman. Maybe not as serial killer-ish. I don't understand why. Because I don't understand the minds of serial killers. So in the comparison, she wants to push to see how good she can get. Carnage kills because it's almost instinctual. But that's the whole point. They're both sadists. There's not a lot of villains like that. They all have their own core convictions, or they're just nasty guys. These are a total sadists that will kill for fun and just do it because they can, and they want to see how good they can get at it. This is a very unique type of villain, and a very dangerous type of villain. And I think that's too good to take away, especially with the fact that she has the powers of the Fantastic Four powerhouse. This is the same deal if Storm from the X-Men was a massive villain. This is almost Dark Phoenix levels type of stuff. So it's very good that she's still around. Another writer, or even Ryan, can use her, or even another writer can use her in a different comic. So I'm hoping for more of that. This page makes me think... Okay, moving on. So this page makes me think that not only... I think Ryan's Future Foundation, this version of the Future Foundation, isn't going to last very long. It's going to be like... it's going to be not good at the start. It's going to be a bit of a trial basis type of deal. But then we're going to see that they can't actually agree, because the fact is, how the Fantastic Four look at the universe and how Maria Hill looks at things are going to be two very different philosophies that can't commingle. Because the fact is, they're going out to save Galactus. She doesn't want to because Galactus kills planets. But the Fantastic Four know that Galactus is a universal constant and is required by the universe. This is something I feel a lot of writers of other characters don't get. This is weird to me, because the fact is, well, not weird. It depends on each individual situation. But when a writer will take a being like Galactus, or cosmic, grand cosmic beings, or conceptual beings, and use them for a moment to power scale a hero by killing them, basically by killing them, really, there really should be bigger consequences. So if they do that and there are bigger consequences, okay, that's where the story goes. That's fair. But if there are no consequences and it's seen as beneficial, I find that as a problem. Because again, I'm going back to Orlando and how he destroyed and how he got rid of the Griever at the end of all things, and therefore pretty much eliminating endings. But the thing is, if you look at what an ending actually is, it doesn't mean it's a death. It's an ending. Endings can bring senses of closure, of peace. And the fact is, his idea of like anything's possible and the inspiration of creativity, expanding it through the Queen of Nevers, makes me think he doesn't have ADHD. Because if you have ADHD and you have so many thoughts running through your head almost constantly, all these new ideas, all these new thoughts, this whole idea of anything's possible and all these new stories and inspirations, it hurts. There are days I want it to stop. And I won't lie, sometimes it does get a bit bad. But the idea is, I would like the certainty that I can get to sleep. I would like the certainty that if I walk into my house, all my stuff is going to be there. That's how I view what he's been doing a little bit in his books. I feel like he's taking one idea and one concept and he's taking it too far. He's not countering it. He's not seeing why maybe too much of one thing is not a good thing. I feel it, and if he's building to something, then sure, why not? Because he's not finished yet, as far as I know. But that's my whole thinking about that. He hasn't found a sense of balance. In here, we're seeing the fact that they know that Galactus is a universal constant. They know that the universe requires him because he does things like counter the idea of a cancerverse. He is also a bit of a protector. And also the fact that with him destroying planets, new planets are able to be built. Because the thing is, it's not always on him. He just goes where his heralds send him. And so it's also been on the heralds when it comes to the idea of destroying civilizations, because he just goes to where they send him to, really. So that's a bit of the problem. Because there could be plenty of uninhabited worlds that has no senses of civilization or population of anything that he could probably actually devour. So that's a whole thing. There are massive arguments when it comes to Galactus, and that's what I think is going to be happening in these pages. The Fantastic Four are going to see things that they know the universe requires to continue, that they're going to probably show mercy on certain beings. Even with the Invincible Woman, Susan wants to help her. Maria is probably going to want to find a way to get rid of her or like remove her powers or even, you know what? Yeah, even weaponize her power. This is why I think the Future Foundation that Ryan's coming up here is actually going to be a bit of a story more about the idea of like these two things can't commingle. It's gonna work towards something else. That maybe they're gonna like this is probably gonna be the big final battle in a way because he's been building up Maria for a while now. So that's probably what we're going to be doing there. So they're talking about the fact they need to trust each other when it comes to this. But the thing when it comes to Maria Hill, she's not a trusting person. She's very instinctual. She's a spy. She's a spy. There's no way this is going to work out. And she has been developing ways of countering superheroes. And the fact is, having the Invincible Woman, if she figures out a way to control the Invincible Woman, that's a pretty good counter. So I don't think this version of the Future Foundation is going to last, or it's going to even be the final result of what the Future Foundation is going to be. Like I said, I don't know how many more issues Ryan has in them, but I get the feeling it's probably going to end with a whole new idea of the Future Foundation, because the fact is, the Fantastic Four are about optimism of a better future. I think what he's setting up here isn't like the new Future Foundation forever. It's just the starting point of the development of what the Future Foundation is actually going to be. So we're going to see about that. That's my theory anyway. That's my thinking. Because this fact is, I don't think they're ever going to be able to trust each other. They're going to be too many times they're going to disagree. So that's where I feel like it's going to go. So moving on, we're going to the last two parts now. So these ones aren't going to take us long because I do have my thinking on them, but I don't think it's going to make me ramble. So we're going back to Galactus, and we're talking about how this is now a new part of the universe to explore. The thing that makes me think we could have done that since Ryan North's Reckoning War, but that's a whole other thing. So we're looking into what's killing Galactus. This part was incredible. And also, I've actually learned, it's not the first time that Susan's done this. She's created a black hole inside Galactus. She's condensed a matter so densely that has created a singularity and has merged and created a black hole. And she made it out of Galactus's mass and energy. So it would actually make a lot of sense about how this particular black hole is devouring Galactus from the inside out. He's pretty much eating himself. That's the whole thing. Another reason why I think this was going to be a two-parter. I feel like that could have actually had a lot more exploration. The idea of Galactus eating Galactus, essentially. So, continuing. This is actually what made this part so amazing. We're expanding upon Sue's abilities when it comes to light. You already know that she can actually focus light into a laser. So she does that with just simply Johnny's power, but it's not enough. Galactus is incredibly powerful. He's incredibly dense. It takes a lot to actually hurt him. So they're trying to actually cut him open, because the fact is, what's actually stopping the black hole from coming out is the fact, this actually took me a minute to realize, but the part here that's invisible is actually Galactus's chest piece, and it's covering his injury, and it's probably keeping the thing, like the black hole, inside, and so they can't remove it, in a way. So, to do that, Galactus bestows the power cosmic onto Susan, making her what I've been calling the Silver Storm, or the Insilverable Woman. Just wordplay, really. And what I like about this is that it's not exactly 100% a power-up, but more of an expansion of a consciousness, right? This is going to be a bit hard to describe, but Susan is actually connected to some higher power. She's connected to hyperspace, where the Celestials exist, which empowers our whole universe. And we've seen characters have a grander connection to the cosmos, like a wider awakening, really. So while it does probably power her light abilities up, it also gives her, like, her consciousness an expansion on a grander cosmic level, so she can actually feel the universe within her. What I like about this is that it almost feels spiritual to talk about. It's not her being powerful. It's not like with the power cosmic, she creates the light beams that's able to puncture Galactus and actually cut out, like take part in surgery and then stitch him back up. It's not even saying, it's empowering her. It's expanding her control. We've seen characters being able to do this. This is what it actually reminds me of. This moment of Storm in the X-Men comics years ago, and how she was able to take in all these stars around her and pretty much create her own star through herself. She's had this this character has had this grander connection to the cosmos, and she pulls it into her own consciousness. I feel like that was similar, as well as to the idea of when Reed stretched fourth dimensionally. It was an expansion of his way of thinking. He expanded his mind into the fourth dimensional space and was able to achieve this. Susan, using the power cosmic, expanded her consciousness to the stars and was able to control the ambient light and photons, and manages to cut into Galactus. It's not power, it's just conscious. It's just this expansion of this person. That's what I felt like was actually amazing. It wasn't simply she gets a more powerful being, because a lot of times when it comes to the Fantastic Four, when they're made to show they're more powerful, it's usually Susan is able to create a force field that punctures a Celestial, so her force fields are more solid. Ben can lift more, but Johnny can burn hotter. Reed can stretch further, or he just uses his mind to figure something out. But these are expansions of their mind, of their consciousness, of their souls, really, to achieve a greater level of understanding and feelings with things around them. We've seen this plenty of times with other characters on meta levels. So the fact that it's actually happening now is actually really good. It's actually incredible, because the fact is, the only character that in the Fantastic Four that really have done things like this is more or less Franklin. how he expands his understanding of the universe when he creates it, because the fact is, he's their sense of imagination. Now, this is a whole other conversation that I'm probably going to make a separate video for, but that's my feelings towards this moment. It's not just an expansion of power, it's an expansion of her, where she can go. And what I mean of where she can go is what I really like about this moment. Because we go to the next one, and we're back at the Fantastic Farmhouse. Sue's a little bit freaked out about the Invincible Woman, as well as her new level of power she achieved. And so we have Ben trying to kind of like, talking her out of it, telling her that she ain't the Invincible Woman. She's better than that. She's also trying to, when it comes to the Invincible Woman, it's kind of like Reed with Doom. He tries to see the best in her, and she's trying to be compassionate for this Susan. So they're having a bit of that kind of a moment. And in the last moment, in the last page, this page here, what I like most about this is Ben saying, you can't really do this like her, and this was because of it. He's kind of downplaying what Sue can actually be. And he's only doing that because he doesn't really think that she can do this. After all these years, he doesn't know that she could probably do this. He's not looking at it as, you might have the potential. He's looking at, you've never done it before, so it doesn't look like you probably can. And so we move on to this part, and then we get to one of my favorite panels. In fact, I've actually asked, hey, Ryan, is this why a compass was used when you were announced to write the Fantastic Four books back in 2022, 2021? That was a bit of a joke, but the fact that she's testing herself now. This is what's interesting here, is that Susan's now developed a bit of a curiosity about her powers. This doesn't exactly happen alone in the Fantastic Four. They don't think, can I do this with my powers? They usually have a sense of certainty. They practice with their powers, but they don't think, can I do more than what I think I can do? So that's what I like. What I like about this, as well as the power to bend the light of the universe, is it feels like we're showing the starting point and the finishing point, where she's starting and where she's going, how powerful she can actually grow to. And like I said, it's very similar to also how Reed expanded into four-dimensional shapes. It really feels like we're getting expansions and then growing, much like how so many other superheroes have in very recent years. And that's actually very exciting. The fact that Susan's now feeling a bit curious about her powers, about how much she can expand who she is. So this is actually very exciting. And what's really exciting is that she's not getting scared off. She might show some caution going forward, but seeing the Invincible Woman, feeling the power cosmic, she's not freaked out. She's not like, I don't want this kind of power. Because that's usually what stops the Fantastic Four. They're humans made into gods, but they want to retain the humanity. Now she's feeling a bit curious. She wants to see how far she can actually go. She doesn't want to be the Invincible Woman, but now that she feels like she can do this, she's saying to herself, how much more can I do? And that's a good mindset to have, because you don't want yourself being blocked by these negative thoughts or other people's opinions. You want to be able to say to yourself, I feel like you shouldn't say to yourself, I'm going to go get it, because I believe that can create some unattainable goals, really, that could lead to a lot of pain and disappointment. But you definitely want to have the opinion of, you'll never know unless I try. Because the fact is, you don't know if you try. So she's trying, and now she's interested in seeing how far she can go. She's curious, and that's very good to see. And that people should actually adopt more of that mindset, that just trying the small way and then working towards the larger. So now we have the end point and the starting point of Susan achieving a grander power set. And I'm very excited to see where that goes if Ryan or any other writer takes over. So that's Fantastic Four, issue 10, the conclusion of the Invincible Woman, aside from the epilogue coming in on May 20th. And it was very exciting. It's very interesting, but like I said, it did feel rushed. It did feel compressed. And I would have liked to see what it would have been if these were two separate issues. Because I feel like we could have had a grander expansion on the cosmic of Sue. I feel like we would have had more in the fight. But this is what we got, and I liked it. I'm hoping writers in the future will see these moments and say to themselves, okay, so this has been what Sue has been able to do, and we see an expansion of not just Sue, of Reed, of Johnny, creating these new types of flames, UV rays and hydrogen, as well as, this is one that really gets me, the idea of Ben being intelligent, because the fact is he is intelligent. Like test pilots, you don't just grab those people off the street. They have to understand engineering, mechanics, chemistry. What's the word? Meteorology. They have to understand. So Ben's not an idiot. He's very intelligent. He's a freaking astronaut. It's saying that episodes of The Simpsons where they sent Homer into space. The fact that they can now look past almost like their humanity and see the power they actually have and continue to expand upon that is actually very good, and may even be good for the younger Fantastic Four of Franklin, Valeria, Joe, and Nikki to expand maybe on what they can do, especially because we've seen that when it comes to Nikki, she's trying to understand the concept of abstract art. Like, because she's a Skrull, because of shapeshifting, she was told more accuracy. So, like, even though she can't really mold herself from imagination, I think that would be an interesting idea to go through. We've seen Joe being very, a little bit militaristic, because, he's talking strategies and all that. He's kind of like got a military mindset. He probably would even do time via 24-hour time? You know what I mean? When instead you go 1 a.m. to 1 p.m., you go 1 a.m. and 1,300 hours military time. You do that. Expanding Valeria's type of thinking. Because the thing is, Valeria really needs to understand that she kind of needs to pull back her hot-headedness, really. And it's actually very interesting to go to, because I feel like she needs to figure out how she needs to create her own combat, really. How she needs to learn how to fight using just her intelligence, because I don't see her learning magic anytime soon. Maybe having something to do with it, but I feel like there's more we can actually do with her being hyper-intelligent. And then there's Franklin, who is the epitome of expansion. This kid recreated the old multiverse, and I feel like there's more that he can actually... Because, like I said, he's the imagination. So he's the one that says we don't actually have limits. They put themselves on, because he keeps limiting himself. And he has his reasons for doing that. So I'm more curious about how he would expand himself using what he's learning, because that's what he's doing. He's watching, he's learning, he's trying to expand until he feels ready for this kind of power. So that's number 11. So that's number 10. Definitely a very interesting read. Definitely a pinnacle. Like, this arc was definitely a look back issue for the sake of the future of the characters, because it's really helping building them. It's not just a story that the Fantastic Four are in. It's showing their growth. It's showing expansions of who they are. And I'm really looking forward to more from Ryan. I'm looking forward to the single issues. I'm looking forward to issue 15. I'm looking forward to 11. And I'm also, and like I said, I've said many times, I believe that his run would definitely benefit from a satellite issue. Maybe something focusing on the kids. Maybe one of the characters gets a solo. It needs to be expanded, because the fact is, we're doing a lot of stuff, but we're condensing it into a single comic book series. Meanwhile, you got the X-Men having all these different kinds of books, and they're all their own individual stories. You got Spider-Man doing God knows how many different types of books, and some of them aren't even mainline, but we still only had the single Fantastic Four book. So I feel like it really needs an expansion. So leave in the comments if you actually agree with that. Leave any types of comments on what you thought of this issue. Leave a like and subscribe. And I hope you all had a great time talking comics. I'll see you guys later.